morning, Mike. Welcome to Between the Cleats with Courtney and Tio on the Demon Seed Radio Network. I apologize for that. There's something up with Skype today, and I'm uncertain what happened, but I apologize.
Hey, no, it is not your problem at all. It is all Skype's problem. I am blaming them. It is great to be here. How are you guys?
Great.
Awesome.
Now, I don't want to mispronounce your name. It's Sempervive. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Mike Sempervive.
Yes, it is.
Okay, perfect. Well, welcome to the show today, babe.
I appreciate you having me on. A nice little change of pace for me, too. Usually talking about the wrestling and the half-naked dudes beating each other up on canvas mats. I'd like to take that to the grass fields right now with the NFL draft. Hope springs eternal in the NFL right now, so it's always a great time of year if you're a football fan.
Well, we're fans of both, actually, Mr. Mike. So if you want to tell me your favorite wrestler from past and present, I'll take it.
My favorite wrestler right now, there's actually a guy in Japan by the name of Kazuchika Okada, who's actually a great wrestler, wrestles for a company, New Japan Pro Wrestling, that gave WWE in the last couple of years AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura, who is just about to debut on SmackDown, who's fantastic. But growing up as a kid who grew up in the Baltimore, Washington area in the 80s, it seems to be you can like either one of two people. It's either you're a huge fan of Hulk Hogan or Ric Flair, and my heart will always go towards Ric Flair.
Tio just purchased some Japanese wrestling the other day, didn't you, Tio?
Actually, I sent a tweet to Mike and asked him if it was easy to navigate the New Japan Pro Wrestling site if I went onto it, and he said yes, it is. And so I purchased a membership, and I got up at 5:30 this morning and watched the New Japan Wrestling show this morning, and it's awesome.
Look at that dedication.
Oh, I love it. I mean, it's so different from the WWE. It's so athletic, and I just love it. And Okada's great, and I also love Kenny Omega, and it's a wonderful product. I used to be the ring announcer for Smoky Mountain Wrestling, so if you ever go on the WWE Network, you can actually pull up the Smoky Mountain Wrestling shows, and you can see me on it.
That's just absolutely awesome, too, because there was one that, couldn't get, but, read about it in magazines. It was like this cool little independent promotion with these guys that used to, grow up watching Paul Orndorff and Jim Cornette and all those. Bob Cottle, who was one of my favorite announcer of all time. It just seemed to always be an awesome territory, and the fact that those are up there now, that's really, really cool. Too bad you're not getting any stipend from that. You deserve it.
Well, I appreciate that. I'd love to. We had to sign a little thing at every TV taping that we couldn't get any extra money off of it, and we give up our rights to everything at every TV taping. But I loved it. A few weeks ago, we had a WrestleMania special, and we had Brian Alvarez on, and we also had Lance Storm on, and we had Dr. Tom Pritchard on, too.
And Brown. We had Brown a week before that.
We had Uptown D'Lo Brown.
Awesome.
Now, before we start talking NFL, Mr. Mike, can you tell me a little bit about yourself so all the listeners can get up to par?
Well, yeah, I am the co-host of the Wrestling Observer live show with Brian Alvarez, which is aired from the Sports Byline USA network over to American Forces Network. On Sundays, it's on Sirius XM, Rush Channel 93. And I started doing podcasting about, what's it been now? About 10 years ago. Actually, a little bit longer than that. In fact, it wasn't even podcasting then. It was just, guys talking over the phone into a recorder and just was put up online. And it sounded like, like you were recording something at a Jack in the Box restaurant. I mean, it was awful, but it was a guy that ran a Japanese wrestling and fighting site that concentrated on a company called Pride Fighting Championships, which the UFC later bought, and K1 Kickboxing, which were two huge sports in Japan, and they had overshadowed wrestling in a big way, and it was like the biggest thing over there, and it kind of fell into doing that, and that just kind of rolled along and further into joining up with Brian Alvarez's website, and I'm sure he talked about that when he was on the show, the Figure 4 Weekly website, which merged with the Wrestling Observer newsletter, and Dave Meltzer and then Brian Alvarez were doing the Wrestling Observer live show, and just kind of fell into doing that with him. Dave kind of phased out of it to do some other things and write for some other places and concentrate on some other stuff, and I just kind of fell into it. I'm one of the luckiest people in the world. I mean, I get paid to talk about again, half-naked people getting busy on a canvas mat. And, I got a talking head gig out of that. It's the greatest thing in the world.
Now, have you ever been to Japan to watch any of these fights live?
Unfortunately not, no. I'd love to. At some point I'm going to try to make it over there. Their WrestleMania is called the Tokyo Dome Wrestle Kingdom show, which takes place every January 4th, and that's kind of like my holy grail right now. I've had a chance to go to lots of different things, but that's the one I'd really, really like to go to one day. It's just, again, it's a massive, the Tokyo Dome, so it's a massive 60,000 seat building, and it's a spectacle. It's all the things that they do for, WrestleMania or Super Bowl or any, huge massive event with the lights and all the activity and all the pomp and circumstance that goes along with it. So that's the one at some point I'm going to try to make it over to see.
I love Japan. I've been there for my line of work, and I had a blast. So I love the cuisine. I love the culture, the people. To me, it's been a blast, so I can only imagine how intense those fights must be, Now, I have a question. Who are your favorite sports teams?
My favorite sports teams are believe it or not, the Atlanta Falcons. Came from, even though I grew up in the Baltimore, Washington area, I came from Giant fans. So I could never actually truly root for the Redskins. I grew up watching those great teams with like Theismann and Riggins, and I could tell you all about them, like tell you all about the Hogs and Charles Mann and everything, but I couldn't really be a fan because of these Giant fan parents. So I ended up becoming a Colts fan. The Colts were still in Baltimore at the time. They were just up the road. And then they moved. And when they moved, I just kind of picked a team at the top of the alphabet at the time. And thank God Arizona was still in St. Louis at the time because I became an Atlanta Falcons fan.
How do you feel about Kyle
experience
Shanahan?
Ever since.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about Kyle Shanahan going to the 49ers?
It's devastating for me. I was having a chance to see him because of his father being so notable in the league for so many years. I mean, I got a chance to see Kyle in Cleveland as a coach. I got a chance to see him in Houston as a coach, and got a chance to see him firsthand with the Redskins and with the Falcons. And here's one thing that he can do. He can calm down a quarterback. He can take a quarterback and bring them along, whether it be a young one, like he had in Cleveland, or whether it be an older one, like he had with Matt Ryan, who has had other people and other systems that he's had to work in before. And he did a masterful job with that offense. I mean, the NFC champions. You can't take away what Dan Quinn can do with a defense and what Kyle Shanahan can do with an offense. Is it perfect? No. May he be hard-headed? Possibly. But you know what? The results that he has right now, San Francisco is incredibly lucky to get what they have, and it looks as though that they're going to invest in him. They're going to invest in John Lynch, the new GM, and they're going to back off, and they're going to try to rebuild that thing the right way. That's at least all the indications that they're getting out of there, and they should, because Kyle's great.
He is great, yeah. Do you think they're going to keep that quarterback?
I don't. Well, for this year, yes. It's the funny thing about this draft this year. It's like I don't know if this is a good comparison or not, but I was trying to think. It's like I knew I was coming on the show, so I was trying to think about quarterbacks in the draft, and it's like I'm going to try a lame comparison here to like reverse cowgirl. Like if it works. It's so majestic and it's so beautiful, and you have that one person where it makes everything, and it's wonderful and it's powerful and it's lovely, and it's an incredible thing. But when it fails, boy, can it hurt really bad, and it can screw you up for an extended period of time, and you're in shame, and it's embarrassing, and it's painful. And there's going to be quarterbacks in this draft that I have a feeling are going to do that to people, and all the lights are shining on Mitchell Trubisky right now, and to a lesser extent Deshaun Kaiser, but most certainly Deshaun Watson out of Clemson. And you got to ask yourself, are these quarterbacks worth taking in the second round, let alone the first? And if I'm San Francisco, they have so many issues and so many holes that they need to fill. To me, there's no reason that they try to go out there and jump at one. They need to rebuild the line. Their defense, there's some hopes there, but they most certainly need to rebuild that. Rome's not going to be built in a day. Mm-hmm. So if I were them, I just kind of roll with what they have right now. I try to make a play because it's Kyle Shanahan. I certainly try to make a play, like Gary talked about for Kirk Cousins. Mm. Obviously, next year, depending on what happens with him and the Redskins. And I think it's a smarter tact for them to take it that way than it is to try to take a reach on somebody in this draft when they have so much that they're going to need to rebuild. Cleveland's a little bit different because they have so many picks at their disposal, but I don't think it's a good idea for the 49ers right now. It's not a great situation, but still, I don't know, with all the holes they need to pick and where they're picking, they can do a lot better.
Mm.